And the next day, it was blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing. And it was so very, it happened to be some quite cold days. Yesterday, it was also the same, but I began to start playing. It wasn't that easy. All this fumbling. This is what I call nature. This is what I feel is much bigger and stronger. I feel it's a bit beyond the comfort zone. Actually, quite a bit beyond the comfort zone. It's not risky. As long as I know what I'm doing. I went up in beautiful weather, as I said, and had a big wind against, like it had come up. So I don't know if I shall try that luck again. It's hard, icy. It's so hard that the skiing is a bit, the skis don't stick to the ice. So I need some rubber under and I use that. As you maybe feel, I'm not very enthusiastic. It's like getting to the limit. It's beautiful to look at, but it's hard to be in. Unless I have this shelter, then it's like I run into the shelter. I don't want to be in my shelter. Hot and cozy and calm. Not into the icy wind.
Hörseln.
I'll do a very, very short introduction. Tine Blom is lecturer in visual sociology and a PhD candidate in sonic art at the Department of Music at Goldsmiths College, University of London. The working title of her project is Nature, Wilderness and Ecological Awareness, Exploration, Experience and the Creation of Audiovisual Artworks of a Mountain. And her paper today will focus on nature, wilderness, ecological awareness and the practice of field recording. Thanks.
Okay, I'll follow my manuscript quite precisely, I think, and I hope I get through all the points. It's supposed to be in here. I just did short on the motivation. I'm interested in nature beyond culture. That it's the world is more than humans. Yeah. I want to pay attention to the non-human and unflatten stereotypes of nature and the mountain. It's a practice-led research project. I inquire into this distinction of a mountain through the practice of field recording, and I seek to evoke my experience of the mountain through my artworks. In that way, there are two aspects. One is to get to know the mountain, and the other is to produce artworks of the mountain. And in here, I will just mainly talk about the first part, because I'm interested in the relationship with the experience and the artwork. Yeah, but that's the next step. How do I learn about the mountain? Through field recording. And how can I use field recording to develop knowledge of the real world? How do I learn about field recording practice through post-production? But yeah, There is a distinction between studying sound art and studying the site through sound recording and sound art. Here I focus on the latter. As such, sound art production is a method and not a product. Okay, I'm interested in getting to know the site through field recording, not about collecting sounds of the site in order to make artwork. Yeah. The first, which mountain? It's a mountain. Is the center of Norway, Tverrgasteinkjøren, Hallingskarvet, geographical center. Climatic conditions are Arctic. It's the growing season in less than 3 months. There are strong winds that make the site potentially risky. It's beyond human settlement, therefore outside infrastructure, no roads, no shops, no electricity. Access to the site takes about 2-3 hours of walking uphill. It means all recording equipment needs to be carried. Using a quite broad range of approaches to understand my work or to illuminate my work. It's process philosophy. As ontology is process philosophy. As epistemology, I'm interested in theory of knowledge, theory of sight and place, and ecological philosophy. All these are big fields, so I'm just going to touching into what I emphasize here. Process philosophy comes basically from Whitehead. The idea is that reality is constituted by continuous movement and change, and from this follows that knowledge develops by participation in these fluxes. There's another aspect of Whitehead also, saying that nature is what we are aware of in perception, which is a kind of a Aristotelian empiricist approach. We can get to know nature or reality by our senses, but it's never ever complete. We just get some fraction into it. We get some access, but we don't get it's never ever the full picture. There is no such thing. Yeah. Ecological awareness is, first of all, it's non-anthropocentric. It doesn't put humans as the center of the world, which all social science do. So it's kind of could be a bit provocating for social science. Basically, I have a political science background, and I'm teaching social science for years, and now I'm interested in the beyond the social science. It implies awareness of being, ecological awareness implies, it's a holistic orientation, things are connected, implies of being embedded, dependent and vulnerable, rather than being in control, dominant or conquering. That is an attitude of humbleness. Ecological knowledge is infinitely textured, and sensibilization is the process of developing such knowledge. It requires a break with the illusion of omniscience, I think, and to know it all. However, it may give you a glint into the universe, just a glint. Yeah. Altogether, I'm very, very skeptical to simplification. Theory of knowledge. First, 3 or 4 levels, or I would say levels. Levels, I don't mean hierarchical, but types. It's tacit knowledge. It's embodied, unarticulated, which I think knowledge from the inside, being in. I'm interested in the tacit knowledge of a mountain that develops through embodied relationship through time. I emphasize through time because a mountain is in flux through seasons and weather, and because we develop sensitivity and awareness through time. A second type of knowledge is articulating and reflective knowledge, developed from the tacit, and also informed, and it can also be developed through artworks. You articulate your experience and try to make it conscious, yeah? There is so much more knowledge that's not conscious, but it's a process of working with it. And it's also preferred the third, academic knowledge based on traditional theory. It means that reading books, listening to others may stimulate, touch upon your experience, your articulation, and give other broader perspectives. Yeah, that means also your articulation of knowledge can also challenge other theoretical bodies. But to get into the dialogue with what's beyond myself or beyond mountain, I also can use traditions of artwork in the same way. I make my artworks, I see what others do, and I get stimulated or whatever. Yeah, I'd go to dialogue with them. I'm interested in interaction with these types of knowledge. But basically, I think that the tacit, that going into the exposing yourself, exposing your senses, you're risking yourself a bit. It's a way to learn. It's an important way to learn. Experience of the sight. A sight is not a thing. Starting with process philosophy, it's a lot of things happening. It's the meshwork of processes. But anyway, my approach to experience of a sight is based on theory of sound, theory of place, experience, and ecological philosophy. Sound. What is sound? Maybe can kind of. Sound. Everything moves. Everything that moves produces vibrations. So the world is a field of vibrations, and this is physics and not New Age. Everything moves. Everything vibrations. Sound is what we hear, all those vibrations, or that are potentially available for us. What we doesn't hear affects us, touches our body. Sounds is vibrations of our haptic. So they're a real thing, yeah. And we're in the midst, yeah. Sounds are these processes. They're not indications of them. These vibrations reach about them. Yeah. I ask, what is happening here? I'm searching for the larger processes that these sounds are part of, not the particular sound object as such. I use affect as indication of something happening outside of me, and I ask, what is happening out there that makes me feel this way? From joyful and uplifted to an uncanniness and despair, of fear. The sounds I hear are gleaned into the symphony of the mountain, or the liveliness of the mountain, I think it's better to say. A sight, a place, yeah. Yeah, I've got a site there, yeah. Every process theory follows that place is a conjunction of meshwork of movements, processes in flux. Even though the rhythms and patterns, the change is continuous. The mountain is also moving. However, it will be in 100 million years, it will be very different from now. So it seems for us it stands still. But all the stones around it is kind of being there and falling down. So it's a continuous process of being torn down. Winds, water, materials, plants, and animals are producers of the place. You produce the place, this place for you by exposure, participation, interaction in these processes. I'm interested in place as an ongoing happening, not as a branding, a stereotype may block experiences. Production of place comes before a representation of place. I'm very interested in this, that gaining personal, direct, embodied experience, and from that build artworks. Even though making of artworks and listen to the sound will also feed into the way my attention to the place. Yeah. So there is, anyway. How to experience. I'm interested in experience as embodied multisensory and as affect. Tacit knowledge is participation and exposure to these changes. And I'm interested in distinct representation of place, written artistic articulation, and affect is not what is not yet articulated. Can be evoked, yeah. This connects to phenomenology. However, the phenomenon of a mountain changes through time, which means that the phenomenon continuously produces a series of effects and conditions. Understanding of the phenomenon develops through verbal, artistic articulation, reflection, through academic contextualization.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, wow. Okay, that's too little. Okay, drop that. Just distinction. What makes the place distinct is you interact with it. You interact with it. So a plant interacting with a place. This place is distinct because that's the way it lives, and doesn't live any other place. For most of us, we kind of compare a place to another place. Field recording, sound recording technology. It's just all about recording equipment as a physical weight. Here it must be carried long a distance. Reveals that the default condition of sound recording is studio practice, at least urban environments. Recording technology requires infrastructure and must be compensated for. It belongs to a family of things where a series of devices are equally essential. Yeah, the point is that advices from skilled sound technicians are not sufficient because they tend to advise on general knowledge for studios. Yeah. Something a little bit about the distortions, technical distortions. This technology is sensitive and vulnerable and not designed for such conditions. I interpret sound distortions as the way the recording equipment responds to the forces of the mountain. Too cold, flat batteries, crisis. Too windy, particular wind chill. Rain and snow block out the electricity of the camera, or it may produce more ticks on the microphone. Technical distortions is another revelation that the full condition of sound recording is the urban tempered studio. Usually we consider such sound from the equipment as noise and outcome of bad skill. However, one may use them in sound artwork in order to emphasize distinct nature conditions of the site. Unwanted sounds. Buzz and roar or muddled sound may indicate the condition of the mountain after rainfall. I may interpret these sounds as expression of the language of the mountain. I ask what's happening, what is buzz? I may get so familiar with this buzz that I stop listening until one day something strange happened. Gee, how quiet. Why is it so quiet? There is no such quiet place on the earth than a still mountain covered with still snow. The point was, in a way, that the buzz, you're searching for pure recording, so for example, water, but it keeps on being this buzz, and after a while you understand that the buzz is actually because the rains keep, the mountain keeps draining. Yeah. Field recording practice, how does it emphasize, how does it influence the experience of the mountain? Intention, as I started with, is your intention to discover the mountain, or is your intention to collect sounds for recordings, for artwork? Yeah, well,
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Tools of engagement and tools of awareness. I think that's I will say with sound recording. Tools of engagement. It is sound recording. Field recording is a practice. I go out, and it motivates me to go out, and I'm experienced the mountain by my practice of going out. I'm looking. It's kind of a radar. Okay, so something there. I go home, listen to my sound recording, and I hear things I didn't hear before, and I go back and keep exploring. Tools of awareness is the same. That is, I hear things I didn't hear before, but sometimes sometimes, very often actually, the recordings doesn't reflect my experience, because my experience are multisensory, and it's part of a more full experience. And the sound and also the visuals, of course, are just fragments. So there is in artworks, there is a kind of one way you can use the sounds for something. It reveals something revealing. In the other ways, you have to kind of, for example, add your voice in order to explain. I could continue, but I think, yeah. Studying my recordings, as I said, as a way to understand the reality. And also art, it means that if the recordings doesn't express my experience, it still stimulates me or provokes me to articulate what this experience is. And that means I can go back and forth between my recordings and my fieldwork. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's take a little bit of time for questions, and then maybe you can also draw on some of the points that you had to miss out. 1, 2.
Thank you for your talk. It was very inspiring. How did you choose your site? Why did you get to work especially with that mountain? And I also have another question is, so are there certain field recordings that you then are finished with that you delete, or is it, I guess that you are building up a certain archive that you work with and go to and then to the mountain again? Or how is your practical work with the with all the recordings that you did?
Well, my relationship to the mountain is because of I'm Norwegian, and Norwegians work in mountains, and then I have a family cottage up there, So I kept going up there, and while I kept going up there, I was there in my childhood also. I began to get interested in sound. And but at the same time, I did photography and agriculture, Goldsmith, and there were some students saying that nothing happening in the mountain and it's middle of nowhere, and I thought that was so crazy. I wanted to articulate this enormous textured experience and reality of the mountain. Yeah, how I work. I produce artworks on my way, but then I go back and I see them again, and then I see them again, I hear and see different things. That's very important. I did not delete my works. So 2-3 years later, I could go back and I heard and I understood my recordings in a completely different way. And it also depended on what I needed, because I did not delete the technical distortions. I'm so happy about that. And I'll put them on my website, so I have lots of works on my websites about this. But and I experimented with different genres of artworks.
We have time for one more question.
Thank you for such an inspiring talk. I have lots of questions, so I'll have to ask them later, but I'll stick to one for now. I think it's fantastic the way you're using field recording to gain an embodied ecological understanding and connection with a specific site. But I wondered how that relates to the more to the larger, more expanded ecological awareness that's demanded of global ecological problems like climate change, that sort of demands that we have an ecological awareness of larger systems beyond a specific site, or do you think that has to start with an embodied local experience?
That's a very big question.
Sorry, it is a very big
We
question.
could talk a lot about it. I would just say one is we need to be sensitive. We need to include the world outside humans in order to understand that we are embedded on a planet. We are a species that are dependent on water and air, and that means we need to have a sensibilization. So this is kind of a sensibilization. And there's this I just, as I said, got the point, is that it's nothing happening, and people come say there's nothing happening, but because we are not sensitized, and this discovery that there is always more, and then also this discovery that 2 years later I hear different things in my recordings. It's about sensibilization, yeah. Yeah. But the climate here is supposed to be like this. The moment it's nice weather all the year, planets are going to hell already. Yeah. So it's supposed to be winter.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again.